Hello everyone, I hope you have performed well in your Anubhav test. In this section, we will be discussing the geography question of the Anubhav test. So let's start with our discussion. The first question of geography is question 42. It's an assertion reason type question. The first statement says, winds blowing from land to ocean increase the temperature of coastal water. So first of all, it's a question from the topic Oceanography. Oceanography, right? Oceanography is an important topic from prelims exam point of view. On and off 1 to 2 questions are asked from this topic every year, okay? And if you see, this question is about distribution of temperature. Distribution of temperature in ocean water, right? And if you analyze the trend of previous year question from the topic of oceanography, UPSC has been focusing on 2 areas within this topic. First is distribution of temperature and second is ocean currents, right? So that's why a question based on distribution of temperature has been put in your test, right? Now let's read the statement. First statement says, winds blowing from land to ocean increase the temperature of coastal waters. Second statement says, offshore winds lead to upwelling of water, right? So it is basically based on the concept of impact of prevailing winds on the ocean temperature, okay? So let's first understand the concept and then we will come back to the question, okay? So when it comes to distribution of temperature in ocean water, right, there are 2 types of distribution. First is vertical distribution and second is horizontal distribution, right? So if we discuss the vertical distribution of temperature in ocean water, it's very simple actually. Let's say this is an ocean profile. So the water near the surface, this will be the warmest, will have the maximum temperature, and as you go down deep into the ocean, the temperature will keep decreasing, right? So surface water will be the warmest water and deeper water will be colder. So vertical distribution of temperature in ocean water, it's simple, pretty much simple, right? But when it comes to horizontal distribution of temperature in ocean water, this is not as simple as vertical distribution. It actually depends on multiple factors, and prevailing winds is one of the factor which impact the horizontal distribution of temperature in ocean water, and our question is based on this factor only, right? So let's first understand the impact of prevailing wind on horizontal distribution of temperature in ocean water. So let's say this is a land mass, right, and there is a wind blowing from land to ocean, right? Such a wind is called offshore wind. Winds blowing from land to ocean is called offshore wind because it moves away from the shore or the coast, right? So what happens that when a offshore wind blows from land to ocean, what it does that it displaces the water near the coast. So these waters will be blown away from the coast by this wind, right? So that means a void will be created here because of displacement of the surface water, right? And in order to fill this void, water from below the surface will rush upward and replace this void, fill this void basically, right? So overall what is happening that offshore wind is replacing the surface water which is being basically filled by the water from below the surface, right? Now we have already seen in the vertical distribution that surface water is warmer, right, and as you go deep down, right, the water which is below the surface will be colder as compared to surface water. So here what is happening is surface water is moving away from the coast, that means warmer water is moving away, and water from below the surface which is colder is coming up near the coast, that means warmer water is moving away and colder water is coming near the coast. So overall impact or overall result will be that temperature of the coastal water will decrease, right, because warmer water is being replaced by the colder water, right. Now let's read our question once again. The first statement says winds blowing from land to ocean increase the temperature of coastal water. So this is not correct. This will actually decrease the temperature, not increase, right. Now let's see the second statement. It says offshore winds. Offshore winds means winds blowing from land to ocean lead to upwelling of water. This is a correct statement. Let's see how. So as we have discussed just now, that offshore winds will move away the coastal water, surface water, and that will be filled by, the void will be filled by water from below the surface. So this phenomena is called upwelling. Upwelling. Upwelling in simple term means that water from below the surface is moving upward, right. So offshore wind is causing upwelling, right, and that's the reason temperature is decreasing, right. So in our question, first statement is incorrect, second is correct. So the correct answer here will be D, right. Now let's move on to the next question, that is question 43. It says consider the following vegetation species, right. So this is a question from the topic vegetation of India. Vegetation of India, right. This is a very important topic in Indian geography, and if you see the previous year question, almost one question is asked almost every year from this topic, right. 1 to 2 questions are asked almost every year from this topic. So that means this topic is important from exam point of view, right. Now let's read the question. Consider the following vegetation species: blue pine, rhododendrons, sal. As one ascends from the foothills to higher altitudes in the western Himalayas on the Indian side, which of the following is the most likely sequence of appearance of these species? So some species are given and the question is asking which will be the correct sequence of their appearance if we move from foothills to higher altitude in western Himalaya, right. So before we discuss this question, so that basically this is a question based on Himalayan vegetation, which is also called montane vegetation, right. Vegetation which is found in mountains are called montane vegetation, right. So before we discuss this question, we will understand one basic concept in climatology and vegetation, right. So that says altitude, which means height, mimics latitude. This is a fundamental principle which is applicable when it comes to the distribution of climatic zone and vegetation, right. And what it means exactly, let's understand it further. So let's say this is our equator and this is a landmass, right. So near the equator on the landmass, for now we are talking horizontal distribution, we are not talking on mountain, right. We will understand that further. So if we see near the equator, the type of vegetation will be tropical. Then the next band will be that of temperate. Then the next band will be coniferous. That will be followed by shrubs, and the next band will be lichens and mosses, and the upper part which is near to the pole, this will be basically snow covered, right. So this is the distribution as we move along the latitude from equator to pole, right. So now this is the distribution along the latitude, right. Now the principle says that altitude mimics latitude in terms of distribution of vegetation. So what it means that, let's say this is a mountain, right. So the bottom zone of the mountain will be having tropical vegetation. The next band will be occupied by temperate vegetation, right. Then will be coniferous, right. Then shrubs, then lichens and mosses, and the upper part will be covered by snow, right. So if you see, the distribution along the latitude is almost similar to that along the height, right. So this is what is meant by altitude mimicking latitude, right. Now let's see our question. Three species are given. First is blue pine, then rhododendron, then sal, right. So let's see where they will lie. So first species, blue pine. Pine is basically any type of pine, whether it is blue pine, cheer pine. Pine is basically a coniferous forest. Rhododendron is basically a species of shrubs, right. It is basically a shrub species, and it has red flowers. That's why it is also called red tree. Sal is basically a tropical kind of forest. So let's place them along the height of our mountain, right. So we saw that blue pine is a coniferous forest, so that means blue pine will lie in this zone. Then there was rhododendron. So rhododendron is a shrub species, so rhododendrons will lie here. Then the third was sal, which is a tropical forest, so that will lie in the tropical zone. So correct order of appearance as we move from foothills to higher altitude is sal, followed by blue pine, followed by rhododendron. So let's see our question. So sal is basically third, then that will be followed by blue pine, and then it will be followed by rhododendron, right. Sal, first of all sal will appear, then blue pine, and then rhododendron, right. So sal is third, then blue pine first, rhododendron second. So the correct answer here will be 312B, right. Now let's move on to the next question, that is question 42. It says, in the context of physiography of India. So basically it's a question from Physiographic division of India. Physiographic divisions of India. Okay. So Physiographic divisions of India is again a very important topic from prelims exam point of view. If you analyze the previous year questions, almost 1 to 2 questions is asked every year from this topic, right. So and if you analyze the previous year question thoroughly, you will find that UPSC has been focusing on peninsular hills, peaks and plateaus. The recent prelims year questions has been focusing on peninsular hills, peaks and plateaus, right. So within this topic, this area becomes more important, right. So that's why there is a question based on peninsular hills here, right. So let's read the question. The first question says, Anaimuli peak is located where Cardamom, Anaimalai, and Palani hills meet. Then Doda Beta peak is located where Nilgiri and Nallamalla hills meet. Then Agastya Mala peak is located where Agastya Malai and Eramala hills meet, right? So in order to understand this question better, let's first see the placement of all these hills and peaks, and then we will come back to our question. So if we draw a rough map of India, right, this is a rough map of peninsular India. So if you see, Eramala is located somewhere here, Eramala, then just right to this Nallamala is located, Nallamala. Both of these are located in Andhra Pradesh, right? Then Nilgiris is located somewhere here, Nilgiri hills. It basically spreads around the border areas of Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, right? Then Anai Malai hills is located somewhere here. This will be followed by Cardamom hills. So this is Anai Malai, this is Cardamom hills, and Palni hills is located something like this, right? Now let's read our question once again. First statement, Anaimuli peak is located where Cardamom, Anaimalai and Palani hills meet, right? So this is a correct statement. Anaimuli peak is located on Anaimalai hills, and it is located where Anaimalai, Cardamom and Palani hills meet, right? So this is Anaimuli peak, Anaimuli peak, right? And this is the highest peak of Peninsular Plateau, right? So basically our first statement becomes correct. Now let's see the second statement. It says Doda Beta peak is located where Nilgiri and Nallamalla hills meet. Let's see if it is correct or not. Doda Beta peak is a peak on Nilgiri, and in fact this is the highest peak of Nilgiri. Doda Beta is the highest peak of Nilgiri, and it is the second highest peak of Peninsular Plateau, right? But the statement says Doda Beta peak is located where Nilgiri and Nallamalla hills meet, right? But this is not correct, right? Because if you see, Nilgiri is located here in Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu area, and Nallamalla hills is located in Andhra Pradesh. So these two hills can't meet, right? So you could have eliminated this option just by logic if you had the fair idea of placement of these hills. So this statement is not correct. Now let's see the third statement. Agastya Mala peak is located where Agastya Malai and Eramala hills meet, right? So Agastya Mala basically is, Agastya Malai is a hill located here, somewhere here in Kerala and Tamil Nadu border area. This is Agastya Malai hill, right? And there is a peak Agastya Mala located on this hill, Agastya Mala, right? The statement says Agastya Mala peak is located where Agastya Malai and Eramala hills meet. Now if you see, Agastya Mala hills is located here in Kerala and Tamil Nadu border area, and Eramala hill is located in Andhra Pradesh. So again if you see, these two hills can't meet. So although Agastya Mala peak is located on Agastya Malai hills, it is not at the meeting point of Eramala and Agastya Malai, right? So third statement also becomes wrong, right? So correct answer here will be A, 1 only, right? So you can see that though these questions appear very tough at the first glance, they are actually not. All you need to have is a fair idea of placement of important geographical features, right? And if you have that fair idea, you can eliminate most of the wrong statements, right? Now let's see the second next question, that is question 45. It says which of the following countries are currently ranked as two largest producers of lithium in the world, right? So this is a question based on distribution of resources. Distribution of resources. This again is an important topic from prelims exam point of view. Almost 1 to 2 questions is asked every year from this area, right? And if you analyze the previous year question, in the recent past, UPSC has been focusing on critical minerals, right? So UPSC has been asking the top producer of critical minerals or their distribution, right? And lithium, if you say, is a critical mineral, especially for India, and that's why this question has been put in your test. So if you see the top 3 producer of lithium, are, first is Australia, second is Chile, and third is China, right? The question is asking the 2 largest, so that will be Australia and Chile. So B is the correct answer here, right? Now there is one concept related to this lithium, that is basically lithium triangle. You should know about this, right? So lithium triangle is basically an area in South America, right? So this is South America, and if you see, this is Chile, this is Argentina, this is Chile, and this is Bolivia. So lithium triangle is basically an area located across the border of these 3 countries. It's a roughly a triangular shaped area, and this is important because this area supplies almost 75% of lithium in the world, right? So this is one important fact that you should know, right? Now let's move on to the next question, that is question 46. It says in the context of geomorphic processes, right? So this is basically a question based on geomorphology. This is again a very important topic from prelims exam point of view. If you see, 1 to 2 questions are asked on and off almost every year from this topic, right? And within this topic, if you analyze the previous year trend, right, UPSC has been focusing on 2 areas. First is exogenic forces, and second is endogenic forces. So what is exogenic forces? Exogenic forces are basically those forces which are external to earth and keep bringing changes on the land surface. So among these exogenic forces, weathering and erosion are prominent ones, right? What are endogenic forces? Endogenic forces are basically forces that are internal to earth and which keep bringing changes on the land surface. So among endogenic forces, volcanism and earthquake are prominent ones, right? And if you analyze the trend of previous year question from the topic of geomorphology, UPSC has been pretty much focusing on these 4 areas only, right? So that's why a question based on weathering has been put in your test. Now let's read the question. The first statement says weathering helps in making mineral extraction economically viable. Second statement, weathering leads to leaching of some materials, right? So let's see if it is correct or not. So first of all, we will understand what is weathering. Weathering in very simple term is basically disintegration and decomposition of rocks, right? So let's say there is a rock and it gets disintegrated and decomposed into smaller pieces by forces like air, water, etc. So this is what is called weathering, right? So when a rock is weathered, its particles gets loosened, right? It will be basically decomposed into smaller particles, right? And then what happens that, let's say water is flowing from upward, so it will pick a smaller rock particle which is already weathered and it will move it down, right? So this is what is called leaching. When water, when any matter moves downward along with water or other forces, this is what is called leaching, right? Likewise, let's say this is another rock particle and air is moving this side, so it may blow away this particle away from this decomposition side, right? So once the rock is weathered, particles are loosened, right? And some of the material, loosened particles, may be moved away from the decomposition side by water, air and other forces, right? So that means some matter will be moved away and only some matter will be remaining here, right? So what happens that not so valuable materials are moved away by the forces like water and air, and valuable materials such as minerals, they stay at the place of decomposition, right? So as a result, what happens that concentration of these material increases, right? Because unwanted or not so valuable materials has been moved away and only valuable materials remain at the place, so their concentration increases, right? And this is what makes mineral extraction economically viable, right? So in order for a mineral extraction process to become economically viable, the concentration of mineral has to be sufficient enough, right? If concentration of mineral at a place is not high enough, extraction will be not economically viable, right? So this is what is underlying concept of the question. Now let's read the statements once again. Weathering helps in making mineral extraction economically viable. This is a correct statement. Statement 2, weathering leads to leaching of some material. This is also correct. We saw that weathering will loosen the particles which will then be leached by forces like water and air, right? So that means both the statement is correct, and statement 2 explains statement 1, right? It is because of leaching of some materials that concentration of valuable material increases, and that's why mineral extraction becomes economically viable, right? So the correct answer here will be A. Both the statements are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1, right? Now let's see the next question, that is question 47. It says, in the given map, which one of the following pairs of ocean current are shown, right? So this again is a question based on oceanography, right? And as we discussed just now, within this topic of oceanography, the two focus areas of UPSC have been distribution of temperature, a question based on that we have already discussed just now, and second important area is ocean current. So this is a question based on ocean current, right? Here a map is given. This is basically, you see, South America, and there is a current on the western side and there is another current on the eastern coast of South America, right? So this is a pretty simple question actually. Current flowing on the western coast of South America is called Peru current. This is also called Humboldt current because it was discovered by a scientist, German scientist named Humboldt, right? So this is basically Peru current or Humboldt current, and this current that is flowing on the eastern coast of South America is basically Falkland current. Falkland current, right? These two are cold currents. So the correct answer here will be Humboldt and Falkland. B is the correct answer here, right? Now, so basically the learning that you should draw from this question is that you should have idea about the major currents of the world, right? Now, let's see the next question, that is question 42. It says consider the following statements regarding different non-chemical fertilizers, right? So this is a question from the topic agriculture, right? Agriculture is a very important topic in Indian geography, and if you analyze the trend of previous year question, almost 2 questions have been asked from this topic every year in the recent past, right? And within this, if you analyze the previous year question, UPSC has been focusing on the area sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture, right? So that's why a question based on non-chemical fertilizer has been put in your test, right? Recently, if you see, Government of India has been also promoting the use of non-chemical fertilizers, right? So this question becomes important that way also, right? Now let's read the statements. The first statement says biofertilizers are live microbial products that do not contain any nutrients, right? This is a correct statement. Let's see how. So biofertilizers in very simple terms is basically formulates of live microorganisms, right? So basically live microorganisms are packed in the form of formulates, and that is what is called biofertilizer, right? So what happens that when you apply this biofertilizer to soil, these live microorganisms, they perform certain biological activities, and that those activities lead to increase in nutrient content in the soil, right? So biofertilizers as such do not contain any nutrients. It is the biological activity of these live microorganisms that lead to increase in nutrient content in the soil. So this is a correct statement. Now let's see the second statement. This is vermicompost contain organic matter decomposed by earthworms. This again is a correct statement. Vermicompost is nothing but decomposed organic material which are decomposed by earthworms. So let's say there is a compost, some organic materials such as cow dung, wasted plants, wasted food, etc. are put in the compost, and earthworms are put in the same compost. These earthworms decompose these organic material, and what is left after decomposition is called vermicompost, right? So this vermicompost is then applied to soil and it acts like an organic fertilizer, right? So this is a correct statement. Now let's see the third statement. Green manure primarily contains organic matter decomposed by microorganism, right? So this is not correct. Green manure, if you see, green manure is basically green leaves and plants, right? In very simple terms, green leaves and plants. So basically plant leaves are collected, or some complete plants are collected, and they are directly applied to the soil, right? Undecomposed, in undecomposed state, right? Their decomposition takes place once they are applied to soil. So green manure is basically undecomposed when they are being applied to soil, right? And that's why in fact they are called green manure. So this statement primarily contains organic matter decomposed is not correct. They are basically undecomposed, right? So the third statement is not correct. Correct answer here will be 1 and 2 only. C, right? C is the correct answer here. Now let's see the next question, that is question 88. It says how many of the following rivers, so this is a question based on drainage system of India, right? This is a very important topic again in Indian geography. If you analyze the previous year trend, one question is for sure in every year, right? And the previous year question trend suggests that UPSC has been focusing on major rivers, their tributaries and their origin, right? So that's why a question based on important tributaries and their origin has been put here. So let's read the question. How many of the following rivers originate outside India but flow throughout the Indian territory? And some names of some rivers are given, that is Gandak, Ghaghra, Kosi, Ramganga, Tista. And if you see, these four are tributaries of Ganga, and this is a tributary of Brahmaputra, right? So in order to understand this question better, let's draw a rough map of India and we will see how, from where they are originating and how they flow, right? So let's say this is roughly the map of India, right? And if you see, Ganga originates somewhere near here in Uttarakhand and it flows something like this, right? Now let's see the rivers given. First is Gandak river, right? So Gandak basically originates in Nepal Himalaya, somewhere near here. It flows like this and it meets Ganga in Bihar, right? Then, so that means Gandak is originating outside India. This is correct. Next river is Ghaghra. Ghaghra originates in Tibet, somewhere near here, and it again meets Ganga in Bihar. So this originates in a glacier called Mapcha Chango, Tibet. This is in Nepal, right? So this again is originating outside India. Now the next river is Kosi. So if you see, Kosi originates in Tibet, somewhere near here, and it again flows like this and meets Ganga in Bihar. So Kosi again is originating in Tibet, that means outside India. So this is also correct. Ramganga is also a tributary of Ganga. It originates in Garhwal hills in Uttarakhand, somewhere near the origin of Ganga. It flows like this and meets Ganga in UP, right? So Ramganga does not originate outside India. Next river is Tista. Tista originates in Sikkim Himalaya, somewhere near here. It flows through India and then Bangladesh, and then it meets Brahmaputra river, right? So Tista is not originating outside India. That means only three rivers, Gandak, Ghaghra and Kosi, are originating outside India. So the correct answer here will be only 3B, right? Now the learning that you should draw from this question is that when you are studying the rivers of India, you should use maps and diagrams. Right? If you use maps and diagrams, it will be very easy for you to study the rivers, their origin, flow, tributary and all the information, right? Without using maps and diagrams, if you read them only in textual format, it will be very hard for you to memorize those information and retain. If you use map, it will be very easy for you to memorize and retain for longer time, right? Now let's move on to our next question, that is question 89. It says in the context of physiography of India. So this again is a question based on physiographic division of India. We have already seen that this is an important topic in Indian geography, right? So consider the following statements. First statement says Satpura range forms the northernmost boundary of Deccan Plateau. Then second statement says Aravali range forms the westernmost boundary of the Central Highlands, right? Third statement says Cardamom Hills form the southernmost boundary of the Peninsular Plateau, right? So this is a question again based on peninsular plateau and hills, right? So in order to understand this question better, let's first see the placement of these geographical features, right? So if we draw a rough map of peninsular India, it is something like this, right? And peninsular plateau is basically a triangular plateau which is placed something like this, right? This is peninsular plateau, right? This is basically located south of the Gangetic plain, and it's a roughly a triangular shaped of plateau. Now if you divide this peninsular plateau on a broader level, this is divided into two parts. First part is this thing, this one, the upper part. This is called Central Highlands, and this lower part, this one is called Deccan Plateau. So both these Central Highlands and Deccan Plateau are basically constituent of Peninsular Plateau, right? Now if you see, this Central Highland is bounded by Aravali range here in the west. So westernmost boundary of Central Highland is Aravali range. In the eastern side, this is bounded by Rajmahal Hills, which is placed like this, right? And if you see the Deccan Plateau, this is bounded by Western Ghat on the western side, and on the eastern side, this is bounded by Eastern Ghat, right? And if you see, there is a hill here, Cardamom Hill, which is a part of Western Ghat only. This form Cardamom Hills. This Cardamom Hills forms the southernmost boundary of Deccan Plateau, right? And one more fact that you need to know is that these Central Highland and Deccan Plateau are basically separated by Narmada River. Narmada River flows something like this. This is Narmada River. Narmada River flows in a rift valley located between Central Highland and Deccan Plateau, right? And just beneath the Narmada River, there is a range, mountain basically, that is called Satpura range. So this Satpura range basically forms the northernmost boundary of Deccan Plateau, right? So this is pretty much the location of the given geographical features. Now let's read the statements. First statement says Satpura range forms the northernmost boundary of the Deccan Plateau. This is correct. As we discussed just now, Satpura range located here is the northernmost boundary of Deccan Plateau. Second statement, Aravali range forms the westernmost boundary of the Central Highlands. This again is correct. As we have discussed, Central Highland is bounded on the western side by Aravali range, right? So second statement is also correct. Third statement, Cardamom Hills form the southernmost boundary of the Peninsular Plateau. This is also correct. We have seen that Cardamom Hills form the southernmost boundary of Deccan Plateau, right? So that means this will also form the southernmost boundary of Peninsular Plateau, right? So third statement is also correct. So correct answer here will be D, 1, 2 and 3, right? So this again, if you see, although it looks very tough at the first glance, but all you need to have is a fair idea of the placement of important geographical features, right? If you have that idea, you can be able to approach such questions very easily. They are not very tough actually, right? Now let's see the next question, that is question 90. It says, with reference to edible oil production in India, consider the following statements. So this again is a question from the topic agriculture, right? So within this topic agriculture, crops, certain crops are asked very often by the UPSC in the prelims examination. And if you see, Government of India has recently launched National Mission on Oilseeds. So in that context also, this question become very important, right? Now let's see the statements. The first statement says soybean is primarily cultivated as rabi crop. This is not correct. Soybean is primarily a kharif crop, right? And this is in fact a rain-fed crop, which is cultivated after the arrival of monsoon in the kharif season, right? Though in some areas soybean is cultivated in rabi season as well, but its primary cultivation takes place in the kharif season. So first statement is not correct. Now let's read the second statement. Palm oil alone accounts for more than half of India's vegetable oil imports, right? This is a correct statement. India, if you see, India is the world's largest importer of vegetable oils, right? India is the world's largest importer of vegetable oil, right? And within this import of vegetable oil, palm oil alone accounts for almost 60%, right? So out of the total vegetable oil imports, palm oil import accounts for almost 60%. So that means this statement is correct, right? Now let's see the third statement. Kharif oilseed crops contribute more than half of India's total oilseed production. This is also a correct statement. If you see the breakup of oilseed production in India in terms of seasons, right? Kharif oilseed crops contribute almost 60%. Then rabi oilseed crops, they account for 34%, and then the rest 2 to 3% are zaid oilseed crops, right? So kharif oilseed crops are, most of the oilseed crops are mainly cultivated in kharif season, right? So third statement is also correct. Which of the statements given are correct? So all 2 and 3 is correct. So the correct answer here will be C, right? Now let's see the next statement. It's next question. This is question 91. It says Strait of Gibraltar connects. So this is a question based on places in news. Places in news based question is very frequent in the UPSC Prelims examination, right? So you should know all the important places that has been in news in the recent past, right? And Gibraltar has been in news because the United Kingdom has been asserting its sovereignty over this Gibraltar, right? So this correct answer here is the Gibraltar Strait connects Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea, right? If you see its placement on the world map, let's say this is Africa, and this is Eurasia, right? So this is Mediterranean Sea and this is Atlantic Ocean, right? And Gibraltar Strait sits here, right? This connects Mediterranean Sea with Atlantic Ocean, right? So this is the correct answer. One more related thing that you should know, this is Mediterranean Sea and this is Red Sea, and there is a canal called Suez Canal which connects Mediterranean Sea with Red Sea, right? Now let's move on to the next question, that is question 92. It says meteorites falling towards Earth survive the exosphere and the thermosphere but generally burn up in the mesosphere. Which of the following best explains this phenomena, right? So this is basically a question you can say based on space objects, right? Such type of questions are also asked by UPSC sometimes, right? So first of all, let's understand what is meteorite. Meteorites are basically rocks particle falling from the outer space towards the Earth, right? Now let's understand the Earth atmosphere in brief. So if you see, this is troposphere this is stratosphere, this is mesosphere, right? Then there will be thermosphere, and then upper part is exosphere. So let's say there is a meteorite that is falling towards Earth, right? So when it is falling through outer space, there is no gas in the outer space because it is completely vacuum, right? So it falls safely through the outer space, right, without any friction. When it enters into exosphere, right, the density of gases in exosphere is very low so as to cause significant friction, right? So that means low density of gases in the exosphere does not cause much of friction. Same is the case in thermosphere, right? There is not much gases in the thermosphere, and that's why friction caused by them is not significant. But when meteorites come to the mesosphere, the density of gases here is sufficient enough to cause significant friction, and because of that friction, heat gets generated and that burns up the meteorite, right? So this burning meteorite is called shooting star or meteors, right? So basically the meteorite is able to survive exosphere and thermosphere because of low density of gases, but get burnt up in the mesosphere because of high density of gases, right? So if we see our question here, the correct answer will be C. Higher gas density in the mesosphere creates friction generating heat that burns meteors, right? This is the correct answer. Now let's move on to our next question, that is question 93. Which of the following are likely to occur on December 22nd, right? So this is a question from the topic climatology, and if you see within this topic, this is based on the concept of equinox and solstice. If you observe the previous year question from this topic climatology, UPSC has been asking question based on the concept of equinox and solstice very often, right? And particularly the concept based on the position of Sun and Earth on 21st June has been asked 4 to 5 times in the last 6-7 years, right? And that's why this question has been put in your test. So let's first see the position of Earth and Sun as it revolves around the Sun, right? So Sun is situated at the center and Earth revolves around the Sun in an elliptical path. And on this elliptical path, there are 4 places or 4 positions, you can say, which are of prime importance. They are these places. This is the situation on 22nd December. This is 21st March. This is 21st June, and this is 23rd September, right? So Earth is moving like this. These 4 positions hold some special significance because of orientation of Earth toward the Sun, right? So if you see out of these 4 positions, these 2 positions, 21st March and 23rd September, all are called equinox, right? Equinox because in these positions the Sun is directly overhead the equator, right? And both the hemispheres get equal amount of sunlight, so days and nights are almost equal in both the hemisphere, and that's why this word equinox, which means equal day and night. Now let's see what is the position on 22nd December. On 22nd December, what happens that this is Earth and this is the axis of Earth, right? So if I draw it here bigger, so let's say this is Sun, this is Earth, right? And this is the position. So here the south pole is tilted towards Earth and north pole is tilted away from the Earth, right? This is equator, this is Tropic of Capricorn, and this is Capricorn, this is Tropic of Cancer, and this is equator. This is the position on 22nd December, right? So if you see, South Pole is tilted towards Sun, right? So that means Tropic of Capricorn is towards Sun, and in this position what happens, that Sun rays reach to Tropic of Capricorn directly, right? Directly means it will appear like reaching at 90-degree angle. But for Tropic of Cancer, this is at the farthest from the Sun on this date, so Sun rays will appear in a slant manner, right? So let's say if we draw these places on a flat surface, so let's say this is a place on Tropic of Capricorn, so this will receive sunlight directly from overhead, so it will appear as if Sun is at the highest point in the sky for Tropic of Capricorn, right? What is the case at Tropic of Cancer? For this, Sun rays will appear coming like this at an angle, right? So for a place on Tropic of Cancer, Sun will appear at its lowest height, right? So this is what happens on the 22nd December, right? Now let's see the question. The first statement says the Sun is at its lowest point in the sky for every location north of the Tropic of Cancer. This is correct, as we have discussed just now. Tropic of Cancer and all the places beyond Tropic of Cancer will receive sun rays at a slant angle, right? Like this. So it will appear that Sun is at its lowest point in the sky, right? Now let's see the second statement. It says South Pole is tilted towards Sun. This is correct. We have seen that on 22nd December, South Pole will be tilted towards Sun and North Pole will be away from the Sun, right? So second statement is also correct. Third statement, Tahiti and Darwin experience the shortest day of the year. This is not correct, and though this statement looks very tough, it is actually not. What happens that if you see, the South Pole is tilted towards Sun on 22nd December, that means all the places in southern hemisphere will get maximum sunlight on this date, right? So on this date, all the places in southern hemisphere will have longest day of year, right? And if you see, Tahiti and Darwin are located in the southern hemisphere. So let's say this is South America, this is Africa, and this is Australia, and this is equator, right? Darwin is located here and Tahiti is located here, right? So they are located in southern hemisphere. Tahiti and Darwin are very famous in geography because pressure for calculating Southern Ocean Oscillation Index is calculated at these two stations, right? So by writing Tahiti and Darwin, it means that any place in southern hemisphere, right? Southern hemisphere. Tahiti or Darwin are just mentioned here, but it could have been also written any place in the southern hemisphere will have longest shortest day of the year, right? So this is not correct. It will be basically longest day. So that means the correct answer here is 1 and 2 only, A, right? Now let's see the next question, that is 94. It says consider the following assertion region type question. Statement 1, ocean trenches are located parallel to volcanic arcs, right? Second statement, ocean trenches are formed by convergent boundary interaction. So this is a question based on the concept of geomorphology from the chapter Geomorphology, and the underlying concept is plate tectonics. Plate tectonics, right? So first of all, let's understand what are ocean trenches. Ocean trenches are basically V-shaped depression on the ocean floor, right? So in order to understand this question, we will have to understand how ocean trenches are formed, right? So first of all, let's see important ocean trenches located in the world. So let's draw a rough map of the world. This is roughly a world map, right? And if you see some of the most important ocean trenches, one is Mariana Trench, which is located here. This is the deepest ocean trench in the world. Then there is one trench called Peru-Chile Trench, which is located on the west coast of South America. And if you see on the map, there is one volcanic arc located parallel to all the ocean trenches. For example, along Mariana Trench, there is a volcanic arc called Mariana Volcanic Arc. Likewise, if you see along this Peru-Chile Mariana Trench, there is volcanic arc called Andes Volcanic Arc. So basically, all the ocean trenches are located parallel to volcanic arcs. So that means our first statement is correct, right? Now let's see why is this so. What is the reason behind such behavior? So for that we will have to understand the process of formation of ocean trenches, right? So ocean trenches are basically formed by convergent boundary interaction. Let's say there are two plates, they are converging towards each other. This is plate 1, 2, right? They are converging towards each other. That means coming closer. And let's say this place is denser as compared to this one, right? So when they come closer, what happens that this plate will subside below the less denser plate, right? Because its density is high, it will subside below the less denser plate. And as the subsiding part reaches a certain depth, the temperature here is sufficient enough to basically get this part molten, right? So because of high temperature, the subsiding part gets molten and gets converted into magma, right? So this magma formed actually then moves upward, right? Pierce through this plate and then erupts into form of volcano, right? Volcano. So this forms a volcanic arc, right? Now what is happening here near the subsidence, near the interaction, convergent boundary interaction? What happens here is that here a V-shaped depression gets created, and this is what gets transformed in the form of oceanic trench, right? So here an ocean trench is formed and here a volcanic arc is formed. So they will always be located parallel to each other, right? So that means second statement, ocean trenches are formed by convergent boundary interaction. This is also correct, and this is the reason for statement 1, right? So correct answer here is A. Now let's see the next question, that is question 95. It says a particular state in India is characterized by the following features, right? There are certain features given and we have to identify which of the following states exhibits all the above characteristic, right? So this is a typical question. Such type of questions are often also asked by UPSC sometimes, right? So let's see how to approach such type of question, right? We will see the given features first. First is predominance of tropical moist deciduous forest, right? So we know that distribution of these forests is actually little dicey. You cannot say that a particular forest is not present in any state, right? You can't say clearly regarding this, right? So let's read the second feature, presence of laterite soils across large areas. Then third feature is annual rainfall does not exceed 200 centimeter in any of its part. Presence of coastal border, right? This is the simplest feature given. So let's see what all can be eliminated based on this feature, presence of coastal border, right? So if we see the option, Odisha has coastal border, Kerala has coastal border, Karnataka has coastal border, but Telangana does not have coastal border. So one option is eliminated. Now let's read the third feature, annual rainfall does not exceed 200 centimeter in any of its parts, right? Now if we see the option, Odisha, Kerala and Karnataka, remaining options are there, right? So Kerala and Karnataka will not fulfill this characteristic. Why? Because Kerala and Karnataka are located along Western Ghat, right? This is Karnataka, and this is Kerala. And we know that on the western part of Western Ghat, that is on this side, the rainfall exceeds 200 centimeter, right? This is the highest rainfall area in India, one of the highest rainfall. That means some part of Karnataka as well as Kerala will have rainfall exceeding 200 centimeter. So using this feature, Kerala as well as Karnataka also gets eliminated. So the only option left is Odisha. So this will be the correct answer, right? Now the learning that you should draw from this question is that you should sometime use, in fact most of the time use elimination method to arrive at the correct answer, right? Now let's see the remaining two features, presence of laterite soils. So laterite soils are basically red to yellowish color soil. They are formed in areas where there is high rainfall with alternate dry and wet spells, right? So that means a spell of high rainfall occurs, then there is a dry spell, right? So such areas, if you see, these laterite soils are found in India along Eastern Ghats in these areas and along Western Ghats, right? So basically if you see Karnataka, Kerala, Odisha and Telangana, all of them are likely to have laterite soils, right? Then predominance of tropical moist deciduous forests. Tropical moist deciduous forests are found in area having rainfall around 100 to 200 centimeter, right? And this occurs in the foothills of northeastern state, then eastern part of Western Ghat, right? Odisha will also have some moist deciduous forests. So that means Kerala, Karnataka, Odisha and some part of Telangana will also have moist deciduous forest, right? But using the last two features, we are able to eliminate B, C and D. So A is the correct answer here, right? Now let's see the next question. This is question 96. The graph given below shows the mean average monthly temperature and mean monthly rainfall of a place in the northern hemisphere. In which of the following climatic zones of the world is the place likely to lie? So if you see, this is a question from the topic biome, right? Almost one question is asked from this topic almost every year. So this is an important topic from exam point of view, and that's why this question has been put in your test. So a graph is given, right, that shows temperatures and rainfall of a place in northern hemisphere, and we have to identify in which climatic zone that place will lie, right? So if we observe the graph here, this is rainfall, and this is temperature, right? So if we observe the graph of rainfall is almost uniformly distributed throughout the year, right? Only in some months around June, August, September, October, there is a minute spike here, right? Only in 2-3 months. Likewise, if we observe the graph of temperature is almost uniformly distributed throughout the year around 40 to 45. Only in some months there is a slight spike of 10 to 15 degree Fahrenheit, right? So that means you can conclude that the temperature as well as rainfall is almost uniform throughout the year. Only in 2-3 summer months there is a slight spike in temperature as well as rainfall, right? So basically the conclusion that we draw from this graph is uniform climate throughout the year, right? And if you have read the topic biome, this is a typical feature of British type climate, right? So you could have easily arrived at your answer. The answer here, correct answer will be cool temperate western margin, that is British type climate, right? So now in order to see whether other options are possible or not, let's discuss them in brief. If you see China type climate, the first option, China type climates are located on the eastern margin of continent. So let's say this is a continent, China type climate will be located here, right, on the eastern coast. So because they are located on the eastern coast, they will have monsoonal feature, right? There will be heavy rainfall in summer months. So that means their graph should have shown very high spike in these months, right? As compared to other months, there have been higher rainfall in these months, very high spike, but that is not the case in the given graph. So this is eliminated, right? Now if we discuss the option B, this is temperate continental steppe climate. Steppe climate are found just on the left side of China type in the mid of continent. So this is where somewhere steppe climate will lie. So if you see, because they lie in the midst of the continent, they will have continental climate. Continental climate means they will not have influence of maritime influence on their climate, right? So that means in the summer month the heat will shoot up very sharply. So their graph should have been something like this, right? And rainfall in these climates, steppe type climate, is not much. There is only a scanty rainfall throughout the year, and only in summer months there are some significant rainfall. So rainfall graph for a steppe climate should have been like this, and this temperature graph should have been something like this, right? So this option is also eliminated. Likewise, if we see the D option, that is warm temperate western margin Mediterranean climate. So as you know, Mediterranean climate is known for warm and dry summer and wet winter. This is the typical characteristic feature of Mediterranean climate. That means summer months are dry and rainfall occurs in winter month, right? So that means the rainfall graph for Mediterranean climate will actually show deep in summer month, right? So during summer month the rainfall will decrease. So there will be a cusp here. Instead of increasing, it will decrease. So this option is also eliminated, right? So that's how you approach such type of question, right? C is the correct answer here, right? So with this we have come to the end of discussion. We have pretty much discussed all the questions of geography from your Anubhav test. I hope you find this discussion useful, and I wish you all the best for your preparation. Thank you very much.